So about a month ago I covered the same topic but for killers. Some people enjoyed my jabs, others got incredibly butthurt, as usual, but all in all it was a great time. Now it may not make as much sense to cover survivors due to them all just being skins essentially, but based off unique perks and other factors, I've surprisingly been able to tell a lot about people by what survivor they choose to play. And since I mostly lean towards killer, I have a lot to say about some of these subhuman stereotypes. Same rules apply as last time. The lower, the more I tend to like the player, and the more to the right, the better. Once again, this list idea is not entirely mine. GS Raider is where I got the inspiration, but thankfully this game has 2 whole sides, so I can just milk it twice. And just a brief disclaimer, this list is pretty much entirely built off my own personal experiences with the game and these survivors' player bases. If your favorite survivor is in the S tier, just know that stereotypes don't apply to everyone, and this list at its inception is incredibly biased and just kinda stupid. So anyways, without further ado, Dwight mains tend to be the self-proclaimed funny guy of the group. Surprisingly, the stereotype of them all being new players who hide in lockers doesn't really seem to exist anymore, because at least in my matches and my experience in the community, Dwight players are either the jokester of the group who's super quirky and random and secretly touches kids on Discord, or they'll just be trying their absolute heart out holding check spots and training in 1v1s. These are the types of people who tend to rot on TikTok and think they're funny for saying 6-month-old Gen Alpha memes, and they're also the types who just need to let you know they're a Dwight main, like that somehow makes them interesting or unique. They're weirdos overall, but ultimately pretty harmless. A tier. Unlike Dwight, the Meghead stereotype has yet to really go. These guys do tend to be pretty unaware, but decently chill. Even the competent ones sweating their dicks off tend to be pretty humble from my experience. Despite having 3 extremely strong perks that require no money and barely any grinding, I don't really see new players even play her anymore. She just seems kind of forgotten by the developers too, as newer survivors take the spotlight, so the players who still stick by her are usually not Megheads and usually fairly old school. They tend to be a little entitled, but still pretty alright. I'll put her in B tier for all that. A perfect middle ground. If I were to make this list when I started playing in 2020, my placement of Claudette would look a lot different. The players you got back then were either the classic self-carrying in the corner Claudette, or cringe egomaniacs who only play in Swift and only play Claudette for the competitive advantage. Early DBD tournaments with no restrictions pretty much had 4 Claudettes every single time due to the nature of her being incredibly hard to see and the whole blendette thing. But as the maps got updated to be brighter, these types of players who wanted every competitive advantage instead gravitated to other survivors. Back in the day, it was pretty much only the power-tripping Swift losers who would play her, but nowadays they're actually pretty chill. I don't really have any bad blood towards Claudettes. Much like Meg, a lot of survivor mains have moved on to Claudette 2.0, leaving her in the dust. I do notice these guys tend to be the first to go next or rage quit for whatever reason, but it isn't nearly as prevalent with them as it is with some other survivors. C tier. Wrapping up the original 4 survivors, we have Jake, and he's the one I have the least to really say about. They tend to be fine, competent, not extremely cringe or annoying. Overall, I'll just throw him in C tier and call it a day. Hey, would you look at that? We've already got our first S tier, and it's from the same chapter as our first S tier on the previous list. Kinda interesting, huh? Anyways, you all know the stereotypes about Nias. Most of them still hold true to this day. Pretty much every sweaty lobby had a Nia who looked like this, or a Fang who looked like this back then. Abusing old object of obsession, old keys, and you knew they always had dead hard 100% of the time. Now that these crutches have been removed, they're pretty harmless, but they don't think so. They have huge egos despite being some of the most boosted survivors in the game when nothing they do is impressive. They'll just play in Swift with all the bullshit imaginable and still somehow go down in 5 seconds, after teabagging you after camping a pallet for a stun. They're not only always carried by bullshit, but they're just the types of people who will verbally say Twitch emotes and shit like that, like Peepo dead or whatever. They just get their entire personality off content creators, and yet they're still shit at the game somehow. They're just straight up boosted by everything. And all their vocab is from YouTubers and Twitchies. These are the types of slaves to try their brain-dead tax exploits, by the way, on average killers and wonder why they don't work because, I don't know, man, the survivor main YouTuber I worship did it and it worked great. What happened, man? When these creators just derank to bully fresh installs, they'll always use the most Gen Alpha slang and do everything the YouTubers they worship do. Like doing the insecure white guy fake wheeze laugh when the fresh install Bubba misses a swing, or running all of the trendy perks from the new videos. Hard S tier, and she may have even made it there if I was ranking this 4 years ago. Much like Nia's, Laurie Strode's used to be the bane of my existence, using her brain-dead pre-nerf decisive strike like an invincibility star to work on gens in your face with no counterplay, and the old object of obsession to hard calm your position to Swift. But nowadays, years after such broken things were in the game, they're just kind of annoying. They tend to be overconfident, but not the types to really cry in endgame chat as much as some of the others. I'll give her an A tier over an S because some of the people playing her just really like Halloween, but I don't know, man, the trauma still isn't healed. Degenerate straight egomaniacs, and not even the funny kind, just fucking cringy, unloved beings who think being good at a game no one takes seriously is some kind of shining accomplishment. The thing is, these guys do tend to be pretty good at the game, because they just rot on the 1v1 ladder and scrim for Arby's gift cards. What's funny about that is nobody really cares that they're good at the game. They'll always look like this, or this, and now that they can't spam send you to Azerov's every match to let the game play itself, they'll just run Windows and pre-drop the 30 god palettes on the map and somehow think they're doing something. These players are the types who just boil DBD down to a science, and they're the reason why so many people just one-trick Blight and Ghoul nowadays, which they'll still complain about, by the way. These are the types of guys who click their flashlight at a broken main building like, chase me bro, and then they get upset when you don't chase them like, what do you think I'm going to do? What's funny about all this is Ace is actually my most played survivor, because I really do enjoy his overall aesthetic and some of his cosmetics, but the compies just ruined him, like the compies ruined everything. He goes into the forbidden unholy trinity for representing everything wrong with competitive Dead by Daylight and why it's such a joke. These are the types to call you a high ego pub player and then stomp 150 games in a row on their 4-man meta swift doing clock callouts and somehow think that's impressive. There are such actual unemployed losers, it is unfucking believable. Moving on. On a completely different note, Bill players are cool. He tends to attract newer players since he's free and has good perks, but if you see a Bill with this sweater who looks like he knows what he's doing, he will absolutely fuck you up without any crutches on any map. They're a rare sight nowadays, but I know whenever I see one, it's either going to be the most adorable, clueless new player I've seen all day, or an absolute solo queue god carrying the entire team with their insane looping skills and not even having an ego about it. One of the hardest D tiers on this list for sure. These are the guys who are always pleasant even when destroying you. Everything I said about Nia can apply to Fang too, for the most part. One of the most overplayed soulless Coomer survivors, and if you main her, you legitimately have no personality. You guys cry so fucking much for how actually bad you are, it's insane. Fang players will always be running Windows and Lithe, 100% of the time, and for some reason they always pre-run? No, like, I'm serious, they always pre-run. I don't know what's up with that. Like, I get you're on comms, but you haven't even heard my terror radius yet. Like, please, can you stop pre-running 50 meters away? It's literally always them. I have no idea why. Fuck these guys, though. They're cringe lords, and they're always crying in endgame chat. Like, the most likely of any survivor in the game to cry. I'm serious. They still get their near hundreds of cosmetics handed to them on a silver platter, and they've bought every single one because they're suckers and skin hypnotized. Hard S tier, and the funny thing is, back in my day, she used to be worse. David mains are weirdos. They're the ones you always see, like, shipping David with Dwight or Felix or something. It's the most terminally online shit possible. I don't even really care about their gameplay, it's just that their entire personality is porn, and they'll always be running the shirtless skin with the most unfunny Coomer name you could possibly imagine. S tier. I'm starting to think the annoying and brobot tiers are going to be a lot bigger than the lower ones. I just tend to kind of hate Survivor one-tricks in general, if you haven't noticed. But yeah, Quentin mains are weirdo e-boy YouTuber wannabes who are constantly trying to impress their e-kitten by failing flashlight saves. I think Mint Skull said it best when he said,
"You feel empowered by using a character nobody cares for, and there is a high chance you have tattoos and rings in your hands, as well as you deepen your voice when you hear a woman in one of your Valorant lobbies."
So, yeah, brobot tier, if it wasn't obvious. You guys think you're so quirky for playing a character with no cosmetics when you're as stereotypical as possible. Moving on. Finally, one I can tolerate. Tap players are a hard D tier because even though they're rare to appear, they'll always be the ones focusing on gens and getting unhooks. They'll usually be pretty easy to down and chase unless they're wearing this cosmetic for some reason. Then they'll be impossible, but yeah, they tend to have a great macro brain. These guys also tend to play tap because they just like Saw, and so do I. It's an insanely fun and stupid franchise, and they probably wish we got a survivor who wasn't just in the first movie and killed off, like Carrie, or Agent Strom, or Eric Matthews, to name a few. Maybe Officer Rig? You probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I'll just move on. Yay, I can bitch again. Kate mains kind of fit into the same stereotype as Fangs, and it's super weird. I swear I never used to see them, but I see them now like all the fucking time because behavior just keeps giving her skins. It's kind of just the same stereotype as the other crybaby female survivor player base. There's nothing really new here, but I think top of annoying is a good spot since they don't tend to be as annoying as like Fangs or Nia's. They're just incredibly brain dead, awful players that are 100% running windows of opportunity while playing on autopilot while staring at whatever Coomer skin they blew their college fund on that particular day. Adam tends to attract the compies, but it's usually the rare humble compies who just really enjoy DBD as a game and want to master every aspect of it, while not having the average weird ego power trip that you'd see from a compy. These guys will boil the game down to its science and pre-drop and all that when necessary, but they will take accountability and have their egos in check. And if they're not compies, then they tend to be complete dog shit, but like, not in a bad way. Either way, I'm putting him in fine. He can't really go any higher due to the nature of his player base, but he should be happy he got this low. Jeff mains like don't exist anymore, I swear. I used to see him sometimes back in the day, but seriously, like, when was the last time you saw Jeff? I know this can be said for other survivors, but he's such an early survivor in the grand scheme of things. And pretty much all the survivors I mentioned before besides Tap and Lori, I see like all the time. Like Tap, these guys tend to focus more on the objective and their chases tend to be pretty pretty weak. Maybe because he has the loudest fucking coughing in the entire game. Like, no wonder nobody plays him. It gives the killer literal wall hacks. This is pay to lose. Yeah, Janes tend to kind of fall into the same sort of category as David's, where they make their entire personality porn and only play Survivor, just slightly worse. I feel like one Jane maid in particular, who I may cover in the future, is heavily weighing down her position. But even without that creature, Jane players are entitled fucking losers who will always go next, like all the time. I swear it's always the Jane who throws a fucking tantrum the moment something goes wrong in their match. They will cry about everything. S tier for sure. Just a spoiler for the rest of the list, I don't think any Survivor is gonna beat Ash. The players who play him don't even take the game seriously and are complete dog shit at it, but they don't care, they're just along for the ride. Unlike other haha jokester Survivors that people will just play for a power fantasy, these guys genuinely do not care about the outcome of the match and tend to be some of the oldest players when it comes to actual age. Just like the Trapper mains with like 50-something daddy bears who have like 4,000 hours but still aren't that good and just play to do stupid shit regardless of if it works or not. They tend to love the Evil Dead franchise and are extremely sad that Evil Dead the game flopped so hard because it was all they'd ever wanted. I love these guys, but I'm gonna say if you're in solo queue and you see one load in, especially if they have this skin, just be prepared for anything. They can be as stupid and unpredictable as ever, and you guys need to learn to play along instead of just whining that you're basically down a player because they don't care. Hardest D tier of my life, and I wish more people played them. I don't even own them. Entitled weirdos who are always teeth bleeding and trying their hearts out in pubs for some reason. Neither of the Stranger Things characters seem to be played by people who actually like Stranger Things. They're just played by terminally online unloved goblins who are only good at this game and shit at every other multiplayer game they play, but at least they found somewhere where they fit in, huh? Hardest fucking S tier on the entire list. Take everything I said about Ace and the other Power Fantasy Survivor 1 tricks who only play in Swift and apply it to him. These guys will always act like they're just in it to mess around and have fun, bro. But the second something goes wrong, they'll be leaving paragraphs on your Steam profile about how you killed their parents or something. They are not used to losing and will pretty much be always playing in a 4-man just to bully fresh installs. But throw a hissy fit when they get bullied back by an actually good or prepared killer. It's either that or they think scene partner Steve Goal is the most hilarious thing ever, which it never was, for the record. These are the guys who are always running the fucking YouTuber builds, and they probably have their own channel uploading "this build destroys killers, bro," and wondering why it gets 20 views. Just insanely cringe, pretentious cry bullies all around. If you load into a lobby with these guys and you're not playing a good killer, just dodge. If you beat them, they claim they weren't trying despite having full meta builds and every possible advantage, and if you don't beat them, it's GG easy. They're also always e-dating even though they're 27 and working a dead-end job. It's a miserable situation. For someone who goes through so much character growth in just the first season of his own show, these guys will never grow as people or take accountability. They basically permanently have the vocab of Twitch streamers and they're mentally stuck at 14. Just pathetic subhumans. Anyways, I don't have much to say about these next dozen that I haven't really said before, so much like the previous list, I'm just gonna do a little quick fire round here to stop this video from being over 30 minutes long. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Yui basically falls under all the same stereotypes as Kate. Not quite Brobot, but very annoying. I literally have nothing else to say. Zarina is like a reverse Claudette, where her player base tended to be pretty chill, but due to a few factors, like some of her perks becoming hard meta for a while, and some of the most entitled Survivor main streamers maining her constantly, the water hole has been poisoned. They're actually some of the most obnoxious players nowadays, and they didn't used to be like this. I'll put it right behind Yui, but if this was like 3 years ago, she'd probably be in base. Just like, what happened? Cheryl's are cool, they tend to be fine. Usually Silent Hill fans, I'll throw them in C tier and call it a day. I also didn't mention this, but I will not be ranking legendary skins, by the way, because Cheryl has like fucking 4 of them. And what am I supposed to say about Sybil Bennett? Like I don't know Silent Hill, no one plays her, just leave me alone, okay? Felix mains must let you know they're a Felix main, like it's somehow important. Like, bro, I got P100 Felix, like nobody cares, seriously. The Thirst Trap character worked on you, we're all proud. A tier. I have literally nothing to say about LOD players, they don't exist anymore and have no personality. Sorry, not sorry, B tier. Huge crybabies, bad at the game, you've heard it all before, there's nothing new here. A tier. Jill mains can get under my skin a little bit with all the shit they say or post, but they're pretty chill most of the time. They usually won't cry unless they're on a non-mode. If they're on a non-mode, they literally always have some bullshit to say in the endgame chat before the match is even over. I'd say top of B tier because sometimes they're serious sweats. Leons are the complete opposite, usually Resident Evil fans, often inexperienced or new. These are basically the modern day Dwights. Timid, hide a lot. The stereotypes surrounding them are actually true. They're usually just in total awe of what's going on around them and have no idea what the fuck is happening. C tier for sure. What is there even to say about Michaela mains that hasn't already been said by everyone else? The stereotype used to be that they would just spam boons when they were super busted, but nowadays it's just like Coomer Survivor number 15 you can choose from the lineup. But why even play Michaela nowadays when they released Michaela 2 a couple years after her? More on her later. I used to see Jonas a lot more, but ever since his voice actor was replaced for being a pedophile, yeah, that actually happened, look it up. I don't really see them anymore since the new voice actor changed because the new voice just sounds really stupid. These guys tend to kind of be like Felix mains, where they need to let the whole world know that they main a fictional pixelated character in a game with minimal difference to other characters, and I assure you no one cares. B tier, I guess, because they're pretty rare. Compy wannabe weirdos who think looping an M1 killer on a brain dead map means they're good, kid, and they finally have something to brag about in life. Always unemployed, always high school dropouts, genuinely just embarrassing people. There are almost none of them, but they're a vocal minority of absolute soy jacks, and they're so cringe and annoying that I'm putting them in the very bottom of S tier because fuck you. I guess we can tone down the quickfire round for now, but I still might be going over some of these pretty quick because we still have a decent amount to go through. Anyways, ever since the launch of Project W, Ada has been one of the survivors I've seen the most for some reason. And it's kind of weird because it's not like they're even Resident Evil fans usually, because Resident Evil fans often play Leon or Jill, but Ada mains are either Comptards or Gooners every time. They'll either be in a full prestige kit, pre-dropping their dicks off and holding check spots versus fresh installs because she literally has no injured noises, or they're just gonna get two-tapped. Either way, they'll find something to bitch about. S tier for sure. Some of the most entitled lolcows out there. I had an Ada in a game I played yesterday rage quit the second she heard Ghoul's terror radius. But she wouldn't have done that if it was Blight, right? This shit happens all the time. It's fucking obnoxious. Rebecca's or whatever, I kind of never see them anymore. Imagine JW is cool. Watch his stuff, I guess. Whatever, B tier. Vittorias are always just low testosterone males trying to power fantasy by playing a buff character, or they're just furries. Like, a lot of the time. I don't really know why, but it kind of makes sense the more I think about it. You will never meet a normal player playing Vittorio. They'll always try to be standing out as hard as possible with unfunny names and cringe profile pictures, and they don't even realize how much of a stereotype it actually makes them. S tier for sure, and even though they're complete dog shit and don't cry very often, they're just obnoxiously unself-aware people. Do not let these guys near your children. Talitas are extremely annoying. They tend to be really into BMing for some reason, despite being complete dog shit, and always running sprint burst. Like, always. I don't really know what it is, but they literally always have it. But yeah, they're obnoxious. I'll just throw them in the high A tier with the other 3 female characters that might as well be clones of each other. These people pretty much only play in Swift and are just bored of DBD because all they do is win their matches. So instead of, I don't know, playing something else, they'll just try to make the killer as miserable as possible to fill some sadistic urge. It's really, really weird and mentally ill, but whatever. The same could be said for a lot of these similar players. Look, I'm trying not to repeat myself here, but how do I word this? Something compy, something weirdo, something pre-drop, something egos, something S tier. These guys are really fucking annoying. They're also just complete edgelord, like school threats. I don't know what's fucking wrong with these people, but they're like top of S tier for sure. If you know these people in real life, just take them seriously when they say don't come to Discord tomorrow. So you may have noticed this list, I haven't really been focusing on perks, like, at all, because 99% of DBD players just level up survivors with perks they want and just slap them onto their favorites. I do it, you do it, it's what we're supposed to do, right? But Made for This was such a soul-crushing perk and had such a stranglehold on the meta for so many months. I genuinely hate this character and his player base just for that brain-dead perk being in the game for so long, and making certain killers unplayable while barely punishing the higher tier killers. Suddenly when Made for This got nerfed to its current state of being a still pretty strong but no longer bullshit brain-dead perk, all these guys suddenly disappeared, and literally the only time you see Gabriels nowadays is if there's some quirky streamer who likes playing all the survivors and never plays killer or something like that. That's it. I can't put him in annoying just because of a perk that behavior refused to nerf for months, but I'm going to anyways. Cry about it, retard. During the last tier list, I said this. I think I may have a bias here because I main Singularity, but honestly, there's a lot of weirdos who play Singularity. For some reason, he tends to attract a lot of furries, like a lot. So you might think it'd be the same here for Cage since he's been my main ever since he came out, and I don't just want to compliment myself, but no, we're awesome. Cage players are basically just the modern day Ashes, and he's one of those characters you see enough, but not too much to the point where you grow tired of him. Maybe once every 5 games or so. These guys actually have a sense of humor and don't take the game as seriously as a fucking national emergency every time they play. A lot of people have him because he has some of the most fun, interesting, and surprisingly strong perks in the game, but not that many people play him, and it's a real shame because some of these voice lines are great. I'm giving him a hard D tier for sure. One thing that's important to note is Cage players are usually really bad at chases. Their macro knowledge is usually decent, but they're often complete dog shit in the weak link of the team. They don't really care though, they just kind of came here to play Cage. I never claimed to be good at Survivor, okay? Top of D tier, not much to say. Usually Alien fans, pretty competent team players, will always die for you, and I rarely played Survivor too. What's not to like? Kind of fits the Nicolas Cage stereotype, except these guys are actually really good at the game and take it a bit more seriously, but they still know how to have a good time. They'll always be rocking flashlights, but usually not for saves. And surprisingly, a lot of them don't even really know what Alan Woke is. They just like his incredibly realistic voice lines, and it's kind of immersive, actually. These guys are cool, though. D tier for sure. Wow, 3 D tiers in a row. Technically 4, because while they're so rare to appear, Bard players tend to focus more on the meme perk value than anyone else, really, and they're just here to have a good time. Oh, wait, we missed one. Who's that? Yeah, no, I don't really really recognize this character. Let's just move on. The Bard goes in D tier. It's kind of a shame, but Lara Croft players tend to be complete sweat lords for some reason. They'll always have finesse dramaturgy, and they're basically the licensed equivalent of like a Nia or something. They're actually usually pretty okay at the game, and they're not usually that obnoxious about it. And they're not really compies. They're like, you know, the pub sweats. They're not usually that annoying, but like, dude, you need to calm down. Your life is not on the line here. It's okay. It's a random 10-hour doctor. It's not that scary. Just, you'll still escape, I assure you. Just, holy shit, calm down. You can actually tell more about a Trevor player from what legendary cosmetic they're wearing. And I know I said I wouldn't include them, but normal Trevor players are actually so basic and average, I literally have to. Alucard players are complete brainlets who run into walls constantly and can't loop for shit. They always loop shit as wide as humanly possible, but they're not usually very annoying. And Soma players are the complete opposite. They're usually gripping their fucking mouse till their knuckles turn white, to 360 the killer, and crying about ping when they get shit on. I'll throw them into B tier because it's kind of where everything balances out. I literally have nothing to say about Tory mains. I never see them ever. You have a Broken Swift perk that's not been nerfed yet because it's a survivor perk, so I hate you. But whatever, you're fine. Still, just go here. So in terms of the Unholy Trinity, we've completed 2/3 of it. We've gotten the embodiment of comp Dead by Daylight and 17-year-olds on a power trip because they can pre-drop God Pallets versus Pig in a 4-man and somehow call others high-ego pub players. We've got the embodiment of the casual DBD crybaby who's awful at the game, who always runs the most crutch shit, doesn't realize how much of a stereotype they are, and will always go next. Rage quit or blame everyone but themselves, and then wonder why their character, and furthermore themselves, are so hated. And lastly, we have the embodiment of Dead by Daylight Twitter. Terminally online lolcows who will cry about literally nothing, behavior being racist for getting the hair wrong on black characters' skins or something, or saying people will forget how this random mid-chapter survivor apparently saved DBD, like it's actually hilarious. And no, this is not because she's trans, before you throw 10,000 buzzwords at me. Genuinely, this character just represents the worst part of the softer side of this community, and is really just the embodiment of Twitter. Some of the most cringe, unself-aware, obnoxious people you will ever meet, the types of people who will tweet racism as bad and think they're changing the world. The Unholy Trinity is complete, and now we can be done. I will go over this type of mindset in my video on DBD Twitter that I plan to make at some point, so stay tuned for that. But until then, that's all you're gonna hear from me. Good God, these people's brains have just rotted from all the porn they've watched and how much they've been groomed. Let's just move on. Okay, thankfully we have 2 more. The 2 Walking Dead survivors that are gonna come out in like a week of me recording this. And with them being so new, I don't really have much to say yet, but I'm guessing their placement will look something like this in a month or so, based off their perks, and what I've noticed from similar looking characters. I may be wrong, but this is my guess for them. But anyways, to look at the bigger picture, we're finished. Here's my list, and I hope it pissed you off. A daily reminder that this video is not meant to be taken super seriously, and it's just me yelling at the general player base of people who play fictional, pixelated characters in a video game, and if you got butthurt, then you may need to go back to your safe space channel. I was actually really surprised in the end at how lopsided this tier list was compared to the other one, and how many survivors were in S tier. Actually, no, I wasn't. Fuck survivor mains. Anyways, leave your thoughts on how wrong I got my own opinions in the comments below, and I'll be working hard on other exciting projects. Thanks. That is all.